I've decided that we all need a break. And that's what we're doing today. We're taking a break. I have finally reached the point in the holiday season where I am now making lists of the lists that I have to make. You know, like make a list of the stuff to bake cookies for Christmas dinner, what's left on the shopping list. And I was like, I think I need to take a moment. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a moment and we're going to do a little bit of holiday, everyday mom glam-ish. Does that make sense? My thought was, what is a realistic, fun, and beautiful holiday makeup look, but not just one, we're gonna do two. We're gonna do some cool tones and we're gonna do some warm tones. So that for those of you that have a preference, you have some inspo, and we're gonna primarily be using products that Seint has released since September on. I know a lot of you have been shopping the holiday sales, you shop Black Friday, and I wanna make sure that you have some really good ideas and feel really comfortable using your new makeup. So if you would like to take a little bit of time with me today to relax, slow down, and just do a little bit of makeup therapy, let's get into it. I feel like everybody in my house and in my kids' school is sick in some way, shape, or form, including me. I don't know if you could tell, but man, I sound amazing. It is approximately 10 days before the holiday when I am filming this video, and I'm in the Midwest, guys, and I suffer from seasonal depression, and it is currently 7 degrees, and we have had snow since Thanksgiving. So the struggle feels very real over here. All right, before I jump in and get started, I need to switch out some shades. As you can see, if you've been around my channel for a while, I have lost pretty much the majority of my tan. And when I am my tannest, I am usually all the way up to like hazel. And as I get down to my lightest, I am gonna shade down. My main shade is going to be Athens. My color corrector always stays the same because my discoloration on my face, while it does get a little bit more prominent at points, the undertone of it is basically always the same. And I need to then switch out my brightener because my brightener, being Athens or candlelit in the summer, is not gonna work when my base is now all the way down to Athens, right? Probably help if I had these in some sort of order. I know I did at one point, but then I swatch and there it is, white peach. So right now I'm gonna be using for my personal makeup look today, Mango to color correct, Athens as my main shade, and then white peach as my brightener. I did start with a little bit of the Plush Prep Mist on the skin. It has hyaluronic acid and caffeine. It is great for redness reduction, plumping your skin, giving some life to your under eyes. I'm a big fan of the I always call it Plush Prep Mist, and it smells lovely. It's a very soft scent, but it is quite divine. So you guys see, I'm just toning down the discoloration. If you are new to my channel, one of the things that is probably new to you, if you are familiar with Seint is the one compact makeup system that you see that I have been using for many, many years, but I use my products a little bit differently. I like to treat the darkest points of my face first so that I can use the lightest amount of actual foundation possible by reducing the discoloration that you see. Oftentimes on social media or other YouTube channels, you'll see different ways, but you see that's that acne scarring that I have going here. I'm literally just tapping in my personal color corrector to reduce that down. I have a lot of redness, hyperpigmentation, age spots, acne scarring, dark chin. But instead of expecting this one color to match my whole face, I'm going to tone down the discoloration first, allowing me to use just a little bit of my main shade afterwards, overall giving better longevity throughout the day. Because something to know about these creams is they really, while they look crazy pigmented, they are sheer. Like they are meant to be, there goes the voice. They're meant to be a very skin forward complexion product. So if you are somebody that is really into light coverage skin tints or something like that, you would absolutely love this without a color corrector because it will even out your skin tone just a bit and overall just give you a fresher face, but it is a sheer product. And that can be deceptive based on what you see on other channels or other social medias, but also what it looks like in the pan. But when I say it is sheer, Like it is literally going to be a sheer wash of color. Like your brush should feel dry when you are applying it. So if you want more coverage, you don't want to add more and more and more of the same color to try and get coverage on different color on the skin. You want to color correct that color first, meaning allow your Seint artist to match you to an appropriate shade that will reduce the discoloration on your skin, and then apply your main shade all over for a more seamless and honestly lighter handed finish of makeup. Anyways, I digress. So my skin right now is a little bit warmer than I need it to be because the warmth in mango is what reduces that color that you see. So what I'm gonna do then is now I'm gonna take my color that most closely matches my actual skin tone, and that's how we're gonna get a color that matches forehead, face, and neck. I'm gonna do something a little bit different than I typically ever do because we're doing glam. I'm gonna use the buff brush. This brush is our full coverage, or as close to full coverage as you're gonna get with a sheer buildable product density brush. Now here's what I recommend. If you're somebody that likes a fuller finish or a heavier finish faster, you can use the buff brush. But no, it's going to pick up. See how much makeup that picks up? Is that a bad thing? No. But what that means is you never wanna like swipe into the cream. It will be like caked on here. You wanna press one little press at a time, and then stipple this across the face and disperse it over the largest surface area that you can before you go in and press again. And then you just keep going. And this will give you a nice, especially if you color correct, medium to medium full coverage look without being heavy, cakey. You know, like in Mrs. Doubtfire when she puts her face in the cake and it has that like, oh, hello everybody. I feel like that's what people fear with creams. And realistically, if you put on too much, I totally get it. But with this product, just stipple and go. Tap, I'm just tapping into my palette. Tap, and I'm pressing and covering as much surface area as I can with just a couple of presses. And now we have a beautiful face of makeup. So I'm gonna do the same thing over here. There we go. Now, this is a trust the process sort of thing. We are a little bit heavier handed than I would like. However, if you've been around here, you know the Perfector sponge is gonna save our day. So we can build up our coverage levels to get the coverage that we like, and then we can remove excess at the end. The next step and what I'm gonna do is I am going to go into my Cedar contour. If you are somebody that is at my skin tone depth, so right now, again, I'm around somewhere between Sandy and Athens. When I add in my color corrector, it makes me a little bit darker than just Sandy. So this is the reason why you wanna work with an artist when you're getting color matched. But typically in the summer, my shade for contour would be either Cedar, which I'm using right now, or Astoria, which is going to be a little bit cooler. So if you've used Astoria or even Ash before and you want something with a little bit more warmth, try Cedar. It's like Astoria's warm sister, but not too warm. Like I could definitely wear it all year long. I just prefer my contour when I have a lot of sun to be a little bit cooler to make sure it doesn't look like bronzer on my skin. Does that make sense? Just going to the top of that cheekbone, okay? Top of the ear, top of the cheekbone, tapping in, pressure on the side of the brush. See, half the brush. Now we're pressing along, stopping at the outer corner of the eye, and then we flick up to make sure that everything is lifted. The purpose of contour is to frame and shape the face where we naturally have shadows. So we want to be sure that we are lifting as opposed to dropping. And again, we're doing just a little bit more than I would. Okay, maybe a lot more than I would with an everyday look, because it's the holidays, right? Look at my eyes, you guys. Do they not say that girl is a little sickly? Let's go under the chin. 'Tis the season for all the flu bugs. If you guys are in the South, I know a lot of you are. What's your weather like? I think it's time for me to move south. Don't tell my kids. All right, I'm gonna flip that brush over and I am gonna go into my white peach and I am going to brighten. I'm gonna go underneath where I have that natural kind of like skin. Go down the side of the nose, underneath that eye bag. And again, don't worry about being too heavy-handed as long as you have the Perfector sponge. Go outside corner. I'm just gonna kind of marry all that together. So I'm gonna use what I already have on the brush and bring that all together. Instead of putting a lot of product where I have the most texture, I'm gonna kind of play the game of a little here, and bridge it all together and create this triangle more naturally than you would with like swiping in with a V of concealer. I find it so much easier to use one of the cool tone pencils to contour the nose and then one of the small ends of any of our eyeshadow brushes to really work it out than it is to like stamp on. I don't know. Maybe it's because I have a crooked nose. I don't know what it is, but I find it to be so much easier. Okay, before I perfect the face, I'm gonna let this sit for a minute. It's heavy, we need to remove excess, we need to do a final blend before we actually get into the look. But the magic of Seint, amongst so many other things, is that like you do 80% of the work, but 20% of this work is gonna happen for you once it starts to melt into the skin. It's like you have all these different ice cubes being the different colors. And as they start to melt, they all come together like seamlessly. So I'm gonna give that a minute. I'm gonna do my eyebrows, I'm gonna prep my eyes for eyeshadow, and then we're gonna move on. Now it's time for the magic of the Perfector sponge. Guys, this is like your Photoshop finished sponge. This will double in size once you run it under water, and then you want to squeeze it out, but do you see already how much lighter the makeup looks? So this is going to be, press this in before you move on to bronzer or lip and cheek or illuminator to remove any excess, particularly if you're using some heavier brushes like the 3D brush or the buff brush. But this is going to blur all of those edges between product, and it's also meant to remove excess, not to apply liquid. So it is meant specifically for picking up that heavy hand and giving you just such a beautiful finish of makeup Look at how we blended that nose contour. Now we have a slimmer nose, and you can barely even tell. We're just playing the game of light and dark with our light colors to bring things forward and our dark colors to make them recede or to sculpt, but we're having no harsh lines because we took the time to perfect. I know this is not like a step that most people think of, but it is such a critical step in this makeup routine. So now we can go ahead and grab our bronzer. I'm gonna do a combination of Bella bronzer and Glow Illuminator just because it's my favorite. So let's start with the large end of the blush and bronzer brush. And because I am lighter right now, we'll just see if just a soft tinge of color to warm up the skin is all we need. If you ever do that and you're like, oh, I want something a little bit more, go over to the other side of the brush. But look at that. And pull some down the neck. So contour is for adding shape and dimension, sculpting the face. It is something that emulates the natural shadows, where bronzer is for adding warmth, like life into the skin. So they do different things, but I do love this little combo. And you can get this combo pre-mixed in what's called Xanadu, which is Bella bronzer and Glow Illuminator pre-mixed. But for whatever reason, I like them separate. I like to be able to control the amounts. Like right now I did a little bit more Glow than I did Bella because I'm thinking more of a holiday look per se. So that is just my preference, but by all means, you can get Xanadu and get it pre-mixed and not worry about that. So now you can see we've sculpted here, but that contour line is very soft. So remember when I said it's like a trust the process sort of thing? That's what I mean. If you want to add any more, just go ahead and take your brush without even adding any additional product and just sculpt up by that ear to create a little bit more of that definition. If you want to make sure you have good coverage under the eyes after we've perfected, don't add more product, just press on to that area. Pretty soon we will set the under eye to make sure that we can minimize creasing. Do you even wear makeup if you don't make these awkward faces? Like, I watch my videos when I'm editing and I'm like, oh my God. Anyways, okay, so let's start with this side of the face for our cool toned look. And I did think that I was gonna do something just a little bit extra. And I'm gonna do a combination of Huckleberry with the Blackberry Flush because I'm so much more into the Blackberry Flush than I thought I would be. So let's go ahead and take our blush and bronzer brush, and we're working on making things look a little bit more seamless, okay? So I picked up more than will be needed because what I'm gonna do is I'm going to prime the brush. So I'm going to diffuse this out onto my hand, and now I'm just going to take what's left on here, outside apple the cheeks, and go up. Add a little bit right here, just for continuity. But we want to stay away from the nasolabial folds, and this is our Huckleberry, which has that berry undertone to it. I am going to let that sit for a minute. I'm gonna wipe the excess off my brush. If you want, you can use your brush cleaning spray at any point throughout your makeup, especially if you're somebody who's a minimalist with brushes and you prefer to use as few as possible. Grab yourself the brush cleaning spray and you can spray and clean as you go. So that side, we have a little bit of Huckleberry. On this side, I would be remiss if I did not use the shade of the holidays for Seint, which is Ever Red. So this is Ever Red. Again, probably getting a little bit more on the brush than is needed, but I want to coat that brush. You could do this on the back of your hand if you prefer, but again, you have warmth on the inside of your hand, so we're really priming and working this into the brush so that we can get just that beautiful diffused look. And here's what I love about Ever Red. Ever Red is basically like what you look like if you're me walking the dog in 7-degree weather. When you come back in, just have that really soft, beautiful flush. So for those of you that like something for the holidays that's a little bit more red or a little bit more warm, you may want to take a look at Ever Red. For Those of you that like something that's a little bit more cool or berry and purple based, you might want to take a look at Huckleberry. Before I move on, I did want to grab just a little bit. All right, I've changed course. I think on both sides, I'm going to do a little bit of Sunshine State, which is going to give the illusion of being much more powerful than it is. It is just this beautiful, it's called a lip and cheek, okay? And it's beautiful on both, but it reminds me more of a high-powered illuminator. So I am going to take that onto my beauty blender. I'm actually gonna swipe generously into here. I'm gonna squeeze this together and I'm just gonna hit the very high points. We're gonna do a little bit more defined illuminator today. So you'll see you have that just extra little glow. Now, because I have kind of a hollowness under my eyes, so my eyes are deep set, so they kind of sit back and I create this hollowness here. I also want to bridge kind of the hollow color. So you have this, then you have the under eyes, and sometimes it feels drastic. Here's what you want to do, and this is the step that I like to do this, and then I like to set my makeup. I'm going to go back into that brush, and I'm going to tap a little bit of my brightener and main shade together. And I'm just going to diffuse this line right here, where all of this comes together, where my under eye meets my blush and illuminator line, and soften that a little bit. I'm not creating a harsh line. I'm just softening the top of that almost so that it blends more seamlessly. Do you see how this one is a little bit more drastic? And now we have this blend here. Also gonna do that a little bit right here. If you get too close in to these smile lines, you wanna clean up a contour line, that's it, tap, tap. And you don't have to use both colors. I'm just kind of in between a color match right now. My skin has faded, but not quite faded all the way, you know. As you start to get lighter, if you got your original color match during the summer and your skin has lost some of that warmth, you're not nearly as tan anymore, you want to consider picking up maybe a winter color match. If you're my client, you can just fill out my color match in the description box below. If you'd like to become my client, same thing. Then I can provide you new shades if applicable. So there we have our Huckleberry with our Sunshine State. And there we have our Ever Red with our Sunshine State over top. Now let's go ahead and set the center of the face. I am going to use a powder that I have been absolutely loving, Carslan from Amazon. I saw this, so this went viral on TikTok, which I'm not even on TikTok, but it went viral because it's waterproof. But what people were doing was pouring bottles of water, you know, like people do, crazy influencer stuff, and it was just like repelling off, and then they were able to use their powder like immediately, and it was also very soft. I was like, there's so much going on here. How is this wet but not wet and still soft and blurred? I need to try this. And since it was on Amazon under 20 bucks, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give that a go. It's fantastic. Oh gosh, I also have it comes with a little puff. I also have it in translucent, but for today, I wanted to do something a little bit more. That's a lot, okay? So again, I could do this in the center of my hand. My veins are a little bit warmer here than the back of my hand. But if you want to set things down and blur them and mattify them a little bit more than the Seint setting powder without emphasizing your texture, I'm telling you, this feels like velvet on the skin. And do you see how it sets and blurs? I like to start out here only because the majority of my texture is right here and I get nervous about using too much powder directly underneath the eye can always add more, but just blurring and mattifying the center of the face and allowing the rest of this to glow has been, look at that, helps reduce the look of pores, all of it. This is, like I told you guys in my Sephora sale video, that I was on the hunt, and it turns out this is an absolute winner. I will link all this stuff below. Everything that we use for today's video, Seint or not Seint, will be linked in the description box, so you are able to pick up anything that you would like or reference it if you're creating your own like holiday look. Now that we've set the under eyes, we've got a little bit of we've got a little bit of blush on, a little bit of illuminator. Let's move on to a warm and a cool toned eye look. I did already prime my eyes. I used the Makeup by Mario's cream matte eyeshadow, no, makeup Master Mattes, okay? Long wear cream eyeshadow in the shade Bisque. These make a beautiful base, or I have them in like 4 shades, a great one and done or 2 shade simple look. They don't crease. They are like a liquid to cream. They settle beautifully, reduce the redness, discoloration, prime your eyes for eyeshadow, put a little bit of powder over top. And now we're gonna move on to step 1 of the like traditional 4-step process that I do for like a full eye look, which consists of step 1, we are going to define the crease and get onto the base of the hood so those of us with a hooded and or deep set eye can still see our eyeshadow when our eye is open. We're gonna create a soft lid, a deeper outer corner, and then we will brighten the eye up. So the shade that I'm going to use for both eyeshadow looks as our defining crease shade is Dream from the Nostalgia collection. Dream is this beautiful neutral. I like to start with a mid-tone matte, something to get into the crease, okay, but also up onto the base of the hood. As somebody with a hooded eye, I need to be able to see my eyeshadow when my eye is open. So step 1 of that, we're doing these small windshield wiper strokes. We're gonna go back and forth, circular motion out for the blend, and then pack a little bit in the outer corner. And we are simply just defining our eye the same way that we would define our face with contour. Sticking to the theme of using newer products, let's dip into the advent calendar. So for our warm toned look, I'm actually gonna balance it with this shade Sunday, which is a taupey neutral on the lid. So this is gonna lean a little bit more cool than it does warm, but there's something to be said for balancing an eye look so that warm is not too warm and cool, if you have warm undertones like I do, doesn't look like it is foreign on the skin. That's why I used that neutral shade first to kind of bridge the gap between what's gonna go on in the lid and what you're gonna see up on the brow. So this is Sunday, so we're just creating that defined, more of an open looking eye by adding something light and bright on the lid and having contoured out the rest of the eye. Now I'm gonna take one of the most beautiful shades, which is Copper, and I am simply going to add this from the center of the eye to the outer corner to start to build that eye look. And I'm using my finger so that I can control. This is it's a very buttery foiled shimmer, and I want to keep my fallout to a minimum. So I'm just using my finger to build that up, pressing it on, and then using my brush to just feather that edge. Because there's not a lot of other warm tones in here that I want to use for this look, I think Clementine would be maybe a little bit too much for this one. I'm going to go back into my traditional colors here, and I'm going to go to Bubba, and I'm going to add that warmth just up onto the base of the hood, keeping that definition. Used our neutral shade to carve the eye. Now I'm creating just a little bit more warmth with this warm neutral called Bubba. Bridging that between the Copper and the crease shade. Now I'm going to take the small end of the brush here and I'm going to grab Zion, which is like this beautiful clay red, reddish brown. I'm going to pack some on this brush, and that's what I'm going to use to add some depth to that outer corner, warm up the eye look a little bit more. I'm going to grab the small end of a clean brush. I'm going to tap into drift, and I'm going to add a little bit of drift under the brow to create an even more open looking eye, and on the tear duct, and follow up into that hollow. Now we're going to move on to our cool toned eye look, and then we'll do a little bit of liner and a little bit of mascara at the very end. So here's a fun fact. I did my entire cool toned eye look without ever hitting record, because that's just how things are going right now. So what I'm gonna do is swatch the eye look for you. My apologies. But if I take off all of my eye makeup, it may mess up my base makeup, and then we got a whole thing going on. So let me grab the shades. Starting with Dream from the Nostalgia collection. This is the shade that is in the crease and on the base of the hood. You guys saw me do that at the beginning. Then I grabbed Chantilly Lace. This is one of the putty powder shades. So it's like a cream to powder. You need to use your finger. A brush won't really pick up the amount of pigment that you want because it is that cream to powder texture, but this is the shade that I have all over the base of the lid. Then I defined the crease with Juliet. So on this side, we defined our crease with Bubba. On this side, I defined the crease with this pretty shade known as Juliet. Added that beautiful pop directly on the ball of the eye, all the way to the outer corner, with this shade right here, which is Ribbon. And last, but certainly not least, in the outer corner is our second putty powder shade. There are two of them in here, Chantilly Lace. That is Ruffle. So you're gonna see, it looks like it's gonna be scary. Do you see how it has like that like putty texture to it though? And I had a little bit of sparkle on my finger. But this right here is Ruffle. It makes the perfect complement to Huckleberry, which is the cheek color that we had on here. I was getting ready to do a little bit of the highlight underneath the brow and in the inner corner and finish the under eye as well as mascara and liner. So that's the plan. There we go. Time to weigh in, comments below. Do we like the warm tone side? Are we digging the cool tone side? Are you gonna try both? Do you need to see the lip look to decide? Well, let's do the lip look. Lip looks are one of my favorite things to play around with. So I have some ideas for this one. It's gonna be a little bit extra. We're gonna have a little bit of layering, but it's the holidays, let's have fun. We're gonna start with the entire lip, because of course, half red, half berry, right? But we are gonna start with the entire lip with a little bit of lip contour with our Pepper Lip Pencil. My goal with that was to exaggerate the center of the lip to create more of a pout. So now I'm gonna go in with two other pencils to actually define the lip and to hold in our lip product. First we have our warm side. So with that side, I'm going to use Toasted Pencil, and I'm gonna actually define the entire lip line, going inward when I get to the edge. Putting a little in the outer corner. And now just using my finger to kind of smudge out the line a little bit. Now on this side, I'm gonna go in with Mulberry, which is gonna give more of like a raspberry tone. Can you guess what we're finishing them off with? I'm sure you knew. Ever Red lipstick and Black Cherry lipstick. It's kind of hard not to cross over in the middle. So we have some berry, and obviously we went bolder with the lipstick, and some red. If you want to make sure you have a nice crisp lip line, just go into your main highlight shade and the flat end of the multitasker. Kind of wipe off any excess on the back of your hand because you don't want it to be too much, but just enough where you can sharpen the lip line. Let's finish this off. Caramel apple on this side, marshmallow on this side. I love Ever Red lipstick with the caramel apple lip oil over top. I think it makes the most beautiful, juicy, full looking lip combination. It's beautiful. And you can wear the Ever Red as more of just a stain. You don't have to wear it this bold. And there we have Black Cherry with marshmallow. And I will take pictures of all of the makeup, make sure there are lots of close-ups for you. In the description box below are all of my other social channels as well, where you will be able to find all of the looks from today. I'll do close-ups of the eye, the cheeks, the lips, but there we have it, folks. I hope you feel like you took some time to relax with me today, to do some fun makeup, to get inspired for the holidays, and hopefully just take a minute for you to fill your cup with something that doesn't involve sickness, snow, or Christmas lists. I hope you guys have the best holiday. So from the George family to all of you, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I will see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.